Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This is the Pop Rocks Radio show, the video side of it. And today we have a fantastic guest. I am blown away. I've gotten to know her a little bit because, we've been doing this a couple times, a few takes, if you will. But she is just cool, turned up to 10. Her name is Ms. Donna Levin. She's got a fantastic book that came out just recently called The Talking Stick. Not the walking stick. That it's not about bugs. It's about women in the modern age coming together and really self-reflection, and I'll let her talk about it. But yes, it's the talking stick, and she's got one. So she's holding it. So as you may or may not know, since I am Native American, I have to yield the floor here. And that's what they should put in Congress, in the House of Representatives. They should have a talking stick. At the very least, you could hit somebody. I'm kidding. Don't send me emails. Donna, how are you today? I'm rambling.
I am well, thank you. I'm here on a very rare sunny day in San Francisco in June. And I graduated from my cast in a sling to a Velcro splint. So now I look like an athlete, not a klutz.
We're going to have to get you some of that tape. You always see those runners. They have those weird tape they put all over. And I'm like, what does that do?
Yeah.
But apparently it does something because they all do it. I don't know. Anyhow, that's cool. A sunny day for an author that has to be inspiring, and you look amazing sitting in your cool house there, your cool literary house. I bet the ideas are just cascading down.
Well, mostly the biggest idea is just what's in the kitchen. But if I sit long enough at the computer, something will happen.
That's fantastic.
That's the way I roll, unfortunately. But I'm not one of these people, I have to write and I have so many ideas, and it doesn't happen to me. It's just a very, very ponderous process for me. Just one sentence at a time. Yeah.
I hear you. And everybody has their process and whatnot. You have yours is unique. Everybody's is unique to their experience, to what they do, what they found works best. If I could paint better wearing red socks, that's all I would own.
Yeah.
It's weird too, because you see, and not to take away of the magic of creative process or whatnot, you see it in sports. I see it a lot with my sports friends. They'll have a particular team will be on a winning streak or something, and somebody will say, I'm not shaving until the big game, or I'm not cutting my hair, whatever it is. I'm opening the door this direction today. Everybody has these little rituals that they hope will help. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if they do or not. But maybe.
To be honest, I don't think they do. And look, I am no different from anybody else. I have I have a great deal of superstitions, which is another way of saying anxiety. But I think just it's human nature to want to think we can control things that we actually can't control, and to see patterns that aren't necessarily there, but to frame the world in some comprehensible way. Whatever gets you through the day, let alone the night, is okay. But I think when I step back from that, I don't think I'm going to maybe not let my husband watch this. When I first met him, he's a big USC fan. And when I first met him, he had this mishigas that if something good happened during the day, then SC would lose the next. If something bad happened during the day, SC would win the next. I think he's outgrown that and gone on to other similar things. But again, I'm no different.
We just had the big Stanley Cup. That's the big game in hockey. And the local team was playing. And my in-laws, my wife, her whole family actually are hockey nuts. Me, I'm a good husband. I go and hang out and not grouse too much about how cold it is, but it's not my particular thing. But they really enjoy it. So I'm at the party. So they were having a big game and they lost. And they lost pretty bad. And everybody was just long-faced and sad and down in the dumps. And I deal with tension by being a smartass. That's making a joke or something. That's how I usually roll. I
Yeah, me
was,
too. Yeah.
but it was pretty obvious that this was neither the time nor the place for my humor. I kept my mouth shut. Anyhow, they had another big game. They got to come play on home ice, they call it. And they won the big thing, and people were dancing in the streets, and good for them. I don't know, because I'm sure that the opposing team's fans had rituals and observations. Wouldn't those cancel out the other? Who takes precedent? Is
Yeah.
somebody's magic stronger than the other? Anyway, doesn't matter. We're off topic.
Well, that actually, yeah.
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
no, when you see players before a game praying for victory and the
Oh,
other
yeah.
team's praying for victory.
Yeah,
So,
cancel
you
it
know,
out. Yeah, I would
yeah,
think.
you think so.
But maybe spiritual energy works mysteriously in ways that we can't comprehend. It's entirely possible.
The one thing I believe is that we can't comprehend everything, that we don't really know, that we have not reached a terminal point of human knowledge, and there's more to learn, and maybe we'll learn it and maybe not. But
Well, exactly.
um,
Look how many times it
you
took
know,
us to get this video going. Jeez Louise. And we're both partially educated. One would think. It's not like we're going
yeah,
to the moon or something. Anyhow, I'm just glad we did. I don't know how it's working, Donna. I don't know how it's working, but I'm glad it is. Yeah, I was about to cry. Anyhow, so the talking stick. For those who don't, Donna, you
I
explain this. You explain what a talking stick
well,
is.
actually, I was going to hold up the book.
Yeah,
Peekaboo.
check that out.
I finally thought of having a book handy by the computer, and I love the cover. They say the three biggest lies in publishing, and you'll see that this is very dated. The checks in the mail, your book's on the spring list, and you'll love the cover. The checks in the mail, that's a very dated reference, but I do love the cover. I really do. From Karen Joy Fowler, a great lady, fantastic writer. She's been nominated for the Booker twice, and I've got a quote from Annie Lamott on the back, and then some quotes from some other good people.
Cool.
And yeah, it's about my heroine is Hunter Fitzgerald, and on the first page of the book, you learn that her husband is leaving her for their friend, maybe not her best friend, but her friend,
Not
and she
anymore.
has just lost her job. I'm sorry?
Not anymore. Can't be a best friend if
Well,
you're stealing
right,
husbands.
right. Yeah, no, they're not friends anymore after this little kerfuffle. So her husband's leaving her, and she's lost her job, and starts with a problem. I learned this from my first real writing mentor. You just start with the story right away. You don't need to know about a character's childhood. Maybe the author should know, but the reader doesn't need to know. The reader is not your therapist. The reader is not your friend. The reader wants to be entertained, told a story, ideally made to think, but not to share your angst. Hunter is now jobless and husbandless, and he's run up a $40,000 debt on their joint credit card. So she takes an armful of William Shatner Christmas songs to a local flea market, hoping to sell them to get enough money to pay her electric bill. And a mysterious woman who gives her, not this talking stick, because the talking stick in the book is fictional, but I bought this to inspire me while I was writing the book. And it is in the book, it is an ancient Navajo talking stick that's been passed down from mother to daughter for generations. Hunter uses it ultimately to keep order in a group of women whom she meets by a series of random events that may not be random, speaking of how the universe works. But when the woman holds it, each woman, she retrieves a memory that has not been repressed, but a memory she's revised in some way. So that, for example, one woman who's is a single mom raising a teenage daughter and having the trouble one has with teenage daughters sometimes, not that no. And she's always felt that the biological father had abandoned her in her time of need. But she realizes that she's revised the memory. She had never told him she was pregnant. And that leads her to get back in touch with him. And I won't say more about that because of spoiler issues, but each woman has a memory that makes her realize that she's created the problems she has in her current life. And I see it as humorous. Gotta trust me that it's funny. It's the one thing I'm confident about. Humorous dramatization of how therapy can work sometimes when you take responsibility for your own choices.
Right.
That sounds heavier than it is because it's in many ways a lighthearted book. I like to think of myself as a redhead too.
Yeah. You know, the cool thing with a theme like that is invariably it's going to lead the reader to do their own self-clarification, perhaps, on big things that have happened in their life. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I know it's been a good thing for me when the world's ending, the heavens are falling, and everything's going wrong, and I don't have a bucket of water. If I sit back and look at it, and in the big scope of things, it's usually not much. It is to me at the time,
Yeah.
but the reality is, settle down, Jamie, settle down.
Yeah.
Reel it in. That's what my father used to always tell me. That was one of his big lines. The rest of that was, he would always finish, and this before I had a podcast, folks. For years, he used to say this to me. You have to understand, I was the artsy-fartsy one in the family. My father, for enjoyment, he would take his car engine apart and clean it, put it back together. A real guy's guy. Me, I'm going to the art museum and stuff. But anyway, he would always be like, reel it in, Fraser Crane, reel it in. That was his big statement when I was getting a little much. A little hard to share the submarine with, you know?
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I'm close to the idea of being in a submarine is a little scary to me.
And me too. What a horrible job that would be. No, I can't. The studio is so small. My wife makes fun of me because one of my big lines whenever I'm grousing about, and I'm like, man, I can't believe there's no room to work in here. Like being in a space capsule. How do you get anything done? And she just walks over and closes the door, takes the dog, let me cool on. That happens daily. Anyway, no, not them. And no, this is cool. This is a very cool. It sounds like these are, it'll resonate. It's a relatable story, relatable characters that you hear about. Hey, 3 cheers for that. You know, I dig that in a novel. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask you.
Well, I hope so.
When you were coming up with the talking stick and doing, I'm sure you've done outlines upon outlines and stuff, but if you're probably like me, you probably start with an outline in your head going, I think this is going to go in this direction, maybe, and then maybe we'll veer over here or do this or that. Is it a long process from conception to where you are now, holding a book, a tangible book up in the air?
For me, it is a very long, arduous process. And in fact, when you say I start with an outline in my head, that's a generous way to describe it. I started this just with the idea that it would be a group of women and they would get a hold of this talking stick. That was all I had. I did not have anything else. I actually even remember the moment I had the idea. The TV was on, which may or may not have been a good thing. And then it was several years of trial and error. I'm in a really good writing group, which was very influential. And in fact, was partly the inspiration itself. I've been in this writing group for some years. And these are really exceptional women. Before I met them, I did not believe that women like this existed. I was raised to believe that women could never really be friends, that they're competing with each other, mostly for the attention of men, but for other things as well. And they're always going to comparing themselves to one another. And then, let's face it, somewhat later in life, I met
Some women, yeah.
the women who they'd been together for some time already, and they are really friends. They are from somewhat different ages. Nobody's 18, but they are from different backgrounds. And most of all, they have very different situations in life. One is a single mom, one lives on a boat, one has a famous name that you would recognize, but I won't repeat. So they are all, one is a painter, and they are all, as well as a writer. Yeah, I know.
Man,
Yeah.
she gets it twice.
Yeah, I know. She's got the double whammy. And let me try to remember to get back to that actually about the whammy. But I would often talk about the group to my oldest daughter, who a couple of times said, "Oh, you should write a book about a group of women like that." And that was part of the inspiration. And now the characters in the talking stick are not based on these women. They're really, for the most part, different parts of me, as often is the case with a novel. Any novel, the characters are really
that with your best friend and husband and whatnot. That's bad news bears. That ain't good. Sorry you had to go through that. Please. Not
You know what?
good.
I got to admit, that took me just a second. That took me a second. Yeah, no, that never happened. And Hunter just lost her job as a fitness center manager, and it's not a job I would ever be qualified for, even though I'm hoping to get back to the gym before too long. But in my really pussycat way, that way, just climb the Stairmaster, and that's about all I do.
My wife does her and her mom do the water aerobics. And oh yeah, had to get her the pool shoes, the whole thing. Needed a new bathing suit, skin or a hair cap, and all of that.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's their mother-daughter time on Thursday evenings at 6:00. They like doing that, and she could be doing other things. So I'm happy with that.
And since you mentioned about the mother-daughter thing, the talking stick is very much about mothers and daughters. And I didn't set out to do that. I just realized at some point I have 3 daughters as well as a son, and loved my mother very much. We were never estranged. I didn't even want to say we had a difficult relationship. She was not a person I admired greatly in the end. She's gone now, but I hope I would like to have better relationships with my daughters, and I would like to be more worthy of their admiration.
That scenario did its job. It did its job in giving you the insight of that, to actually considering that. So troubled times aren't always necessarily a bad thing. If you can try to find the silver linings, they say, right? The silver linings. Let me ask you, 3 daughters and a son. I'm just curious.
Yes.
I have no children. I have a dog. A wrinkly Shar-Pei puppy. That's all I have. And that's my whole experience of being a parent, which isn't being a parent. I get it. Don't send me emails, Pete. Easier to raise, girls or boys.
It just depends on the kid. I think in my case, the girls have been easier, but the conventional wisdom is that boys are easier.
Really?
Yeah, my grandmother, who had 2 daughters, my mother and my aunt, you could probably have guessed that, was always, with girls, there's always a crisis. Boys are easy. But God bless her, I really love my grandmother. I was very close to her, but she was very much took the half-empty side of the half-empty half.
This woman of her age,
did
right?
not.
It was.
Yes.
Look at the history book, folks. It hasn't always been the smooth sailing that we find ourselves in today.
When she was born, women couldn't vote.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So things have certainly changed a lot since then. That was a staggering thought. I'm trying to think. I think she was born in 1906, something, 1906 or 1905. Kirkus shows comes out. And
the airplanes had just come on the scene. That's crazy. Model Ts riding around.
Well, I actually wrote an essay about her, the J, which is the Northern California Jewish Bulletin, about how I felt that she didn't have the opportunities that she would have had. Like my synagogue, we have 3 women rabbis, We have a bunch of
Wow.
rabbis there, and
That
we
wasn't
have
going down in
openly gay.
1906.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think.
oh my God, no. So had she been born later, my grandmother could have become a rabbi. She was married to well, she was married to my grandfather. Shocker, but he was the rabbi of our synagogue.
Those
And
crazy kids did
unfortunately, he passed
weird
away when I was
stuff.
11.
No,
I
that's
know,
good.
I
Let
know.
me ask you, was
She
she,
could have been the rabbi. It's weird.
not to get too personal or whatnot, and if I cross a boundary, please tell me. It's not meant. No intent meant there. Was she stateside or was she in Europe? Did
I
she go through the World War II from the
no,
European
no.
perspective? Oh, okay.
She didn't go.
Thank God.
She was here.
Okay.
Yes, really. Actually, only one of my grandparents was actually born here. The other three came as infants. So they came here by the time they were 2 years old. So none of them had, English was a first language, which as they were growing up was a BFD, that you didn't speak with an accent. And they all put Yiddish behind them very quickly, although their parents spoke Yiddish, because you wanted to fit in and you didn't want to seem old world. And in fact, this is amusing to me now, but my paternal grandmother claimed that she was of German ancestry, German Jewish. She wasn't trying to pass, but there was a time, I'm not sure it's completely over, but there was a time when there was this very serious, it's not rivalry isn't the right word, but there was, the German Jews looked down on the East European Jews.
Tribalism.
Right?
It
That
happens
made
in
no
every
difference to
culture.
Nazis.
Right.
But to me, that speaks to just how humans we have to form hierarchies. We have to have there's
Pecking
me,
order.
there's us and them. Yeah.
Absolutely. My grandparents, very into their Native American heritage. They were right here, right now with it. My father was of a generation when life was easier if you didn't wear that uniform of the day, as he would say. And it wasn't until he was older and retired and life was pretty set that he started getting back into all that. So I didn't learn not many of the culture. It took me out of hunt, but the cultural aspects of my Native ancestry. Learned it from my grandparents, not my father. Just it wasn't cool to be an Indian in his generation, despite Billy Jack. Who wouldn't want to be Billy Jack? Come on. Hit you on that side of the face with this fun. Anyway, older people will get that reference. The young people won't. Look it up, people.
Okay, I'm going to pretend I didn't get it, but I did get it. Though when you say Native American, perhaps you can be more specific.
Cherokee. No, I'm Cherokee.
Cherokee.
Yeah. Born in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Oklahoma. I don't even want to. It's so. I try so hard because we've done a few podcasts, and this will also be a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing a video side to the show now, which is what you're watching. But I try so hard to keep politics out, and it's really hard, especially the last 8 years. I'm just saying, settle down, Washington. Trying to have fun here. Anyhow,
reel it in, Fraser.
Reel it in, Fraser. That's more reel it in, Barney Fight. Anyhow, don't get me started. That's my wife. My wife's on vacation.
It might be too late for that.
Oh, I'm telling you. This week she's on vacation. Girlfriend of hers, turning 40. So I call it their coven, but their whole little gang of girls all decided to, I guess, Airbnb or something. They rented a big mansion in New Orleans, all saved for a year, put their pennies in a can, and they got this big place, and for the next week, they're currently in New Orleans. And so it's just me and the dog here, and our cat, holding down the fort. And she texted me before bed. We're young, that's what we do. We're not young. But she was saying goodnight. She goes, "Hey, I am so glad I am hundreds and hundreds of miles away from you while you were trying to watch that debate. You haven't mentioned it, but are you okay?"
Yeah.
My blood pressure was up a little bit. Had to watch some Alaska shows to calm down, but I'm okay. We're going to get through. It was
You
hard.
know, I did not watch because I knew that I would hear about it and I would be able to see whatever I wanted to
The
see.
highlights, right?
And I don't want to cop out, and I'm going to vote. And response, it's everyone's responsibility to be involved in some way. But I knew I would my blood pressure's a little higher than it should be anyway. Thought
I will
it
say
would,
this about it, just between us and all of you out there as friends. I don't think any minds were changed last night during the debate. I didn't come away from that going, oh, that side's going to suddenly reevaluate things and this side is
yeah,
going to swing a different direction. No, none of that happened. The interesting thing is I was watching it. We have every streaming thing known to man. It's insane.
yeah, me
But
too.
I put a big TV antenna on our house and we pick up broadcast signals when I want to watch local news or something like that. And so I watched on the local thing. And part of the over the air thing is we have a full big block of Hispanic news station or television stations.
Yeah.
And of course, they were all playing it too, and they had the translations and whatnot going. But I quickly flipped up after to check out that perspective because they had the post debate, just like the English speaking folks did. Well, what do you think when he said this or blah, blah? We have a panel here. And so I'm watching this and they're asking, and I had people they're interviewing. And those are the people that I'm like, that's who that debate was for, not the people that have already made up
Hmm.
their minds 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And that nobody cares. They're not, that vote has already been set. But those other people, I want to know where their perspective was. So it was interesting. It was interesting to see and a little surprising, to be honest with you. I was surprised at their response. It was very, not that it wouldn't be, but I was like, wow, okay, they're on board. Sounds good. Next.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Um,
in your books
You know,
as an author, do you ever, does the world seep in to the stew?
well, in fact, purposely, and this now I'm really glad I did. I purposely, when I started, the truth is, I started this book before the pandemic hit,
Oh, okay.
and I purposely did not write about anything having to do with COVID, nor anything to do with politics, not even local politics. In the past, I've written about local politics, fictionalized local politics, but I thought I'm gonna this is gonna become dated so fast if I do that. And
Absolutely.
I've seen other writers do it, and that doesn't mean they shouldn't. But I'm glad I didn't go either with
Smart,
those are the two
smart.
big things. But I didn't. There's some small things like the flea market I write about early in the book doesn't exist anymore. It did not survive the pandemic.
That
It
stinks.
just it
I
used
like
to
a
take
good
place
flea
monthly
market.
on Treasure Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Were
yeah.
you, do you
Me
go?
too. Um,
Yeah.
I haven't recently, but I'm glad they're back. I'm very glad they're back. Actually,
Awesome.
one of my daughters is a big flea market person. So that's things like that. But the Golden Gate Bridge is still standing, thank God. And the boat, the marina and Sausalito is still there, and everything else. I'm hoping people can overlook
Let
that,
me ask you, as a
that one
creative,
lapse. And there are probably other lapses as well.
as an artist, a writer, a creative person, did when the pandemic first showed up, when it happened initially, what was your response? Because you're like me, right? You work from home primarily, and you're
Yeah,
already used to
yeah,
social distancing. It's not anything new.
yeah.
What were you thinking?
I'll tell you what I was thinking was the same way I felt about the broken wrist, which was, oh, in 2 weeks this will be over. In 2 weeks I'll be, But I remember very clearly actually that the California shutdown I think was March 17th, and everybody was. I certainly thought, okay, in 2 weeks, and then April comes, another month maybe, and then July comes, then August, and it wasn't until we got the vaccines really that things started to
Improve.
not. They still haven't completely returned to normal. We're dealing with changes now that are permanent. For example, every the remote work. And
Oh,
in some
yeah.
ways, there have been some changes that were beneficial, I think. For example, people get together on Zoom now in a way they didn't. And I think we would have gotten here in a few years anyway, but the pandemic accelerated that. So,
Absolutely.
for the most part, I think that's a good thing. Because I teach writing sometimes, and I have students from all over the country, sometimes from all over the world. And back when I started teaching at UC Berkeley Extension, everybody was from the Bay Area, if not
Right.
San Francisco. So that was a good thing. And then now for me just as a writer, there was nowhere to go and no one to see, and everybody was afraid of other people. It's easy to forget how scary it was, really.
Oh,
But what I found is I still had a couple kids at home, or actually, no, wait a minute. I had one daughter still in college and the others more or less outside the home. But I would spend a lot of time on YouTube and fritter away a lot of time. And then about 5 in the evening, I would hit my stride. And from 5 to 8 was when I did most of my real work.
nice.
I think it took time for everybody, and I probably had it easier than many. I'll tell you, my son has a disability, and he was all the activities that he participated in stopped. So from
That's
my
got to be
point of view,
rough.
he got hit. In my family, he got hit the hardest because he was suddenly confined to the house. So I'm very glad for his sake that has gone on. I wanted to circle back to you. We were talking about my friend who's a painter and a writer.
Hmm.
And I often think and she does have tough that on both fronts. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
concentrating more on the painting now than on the writing. It's all about that.
Oh, that poor
But
dear. I'm
what I,
kidding. I'm
what
kidding.
I tell, yeah, what I tell students is the quote from The Godfather Part 2, where Hyman Roth
Fantastic film.
says, "This is the business we've chosen.
Right.
So don't complain. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But, it's hard for everybody. Suck it up.
Despite
Reel
how
it in,
Herman
Fraser."
felt, Mo had to go. That's all I'm saying. He had to go.
Yeah.
Young people have no idea what I'm talking. Go watch that movie, folks. Godfather 2. It's fantastic. I dare say maybe better than
Yeah.
Godfather 1. One of those things. And then Godfather 3, which we
Yeah.
won't talk about. Sonny's kid becomes an opera singer. What is that? Any. My wife, I'm going to out her. Would this be considered doxing? I don't know all these terms. She's Italian American, right? Italian and Irish. Has never seen the Godfather movies. I'm like, how can you? She's never even seen Rocky. I'm like, come on. Are you kidding me? Not
This
her
is going to
thing.
this is what be politically correct, but I think they are more guy movies
Oh,
than
absolutely.
woman movies.
That's very
I'm
true.
not a big fan of the Godfather movies. My husband loves them. If they're on cable, he's front row center.
Yeah,
But it
because
gave me
who
that
had the
one.
real power in Godfather 2?
Yeah.
The lawyer. The lawyer.
Although I love The Sopranos.
I did too,
Finally
except
got to
the
binge.
ending. Oh man, that was rough.
And yeah,
It just
well, there was
left me.
I don't know what they could have done better.
Right.
Particularly, yeah, and they had a good run, but I was really surprised at how much I liked it. I was expecting it to be much more violent. Not violent enough, but it was really well done.
There have been a few
And
shows like that. I really got into Boardwalk Empire, and I loved that. And what's the meth one? Brian Cranston. I can't think of the title of it. Where they're selling meth in New Mexico. He's the school teacher with cancer. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyhow, I like a good show, but man, it's just the time involved. Some of these are 7 seasons long, and it's, geez, I got things to do. Now, with a good book like The Talking Stick, I can read that and then finish it and then reread it and get something new out of it. That's good art.
Little shameless self promotion there. I watch plenty of TV, mostly, and plenty of movies and there's
Oh, yeah.
whatever, and I
How we
already
entertain
mentioned YouTube,
ourselves.
but a novel engages is a part of the brain that, watching TV and watching movies is a more passive activity, no matter how good they are, than reading. And in fact, I just finished reading. It's really a long essay that was published by as a book by a journalist named Joseph Epstein. Title is "The Novel Who Needs It," and he makes the argument that the novel holds a significant, unique place in our culture in terms of engaging people to
Absolutely.
empathize with other humans and use their imagination. And of course, as a novelist, I love reading that, but I genuinely believe it's true. And I know that for me, there's nothing feels better than reading a book that I look forward to going back to. And I will,
I
if
agree.
really enjoying, now there are books that aren't worth as much attention and I will find myself skimming a little. But if a book is good, I will read it very slowly. I will reread sentences. I will picture the action. I will ruminate on what's going on. And of course, a truly great book benefits from a reread. In fact, Epstein makes the point that there are books that you should read at a certain age and reread at another age. And, I've read Karamazov twice. I've read 1984 about 4 times. And of course, now it's scarier than ever.
Me too.
So
Me too.
I
have to see if I can pull this out. Oh man, of course everything's falling now. Here's my 1984 hat. Make Orwell fiction again.
yeah.
It's
Well, I have to
go ahead.
take this opportunity to say that in 1984, and I only realized this kind of at a recent reread, Orwell actually anticipates AI. Julia works in the Ministry of Truth, and she works on a machine that turns out Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
And there's a later scene where one of the proles is singing a song that we learn has been created by a machine, the versificator, something. I don't have that exactly right. But, and the telescreen, the two-way
absolutely.
screen where they can see you at when you see them.
Yeah.
And you figure this book was written in the 1940s. It's because most science fiction gets it wrong. A big Star Trek fan, TOS only, the original series only. But the idea that there are all these planets where humans there are people who look just like humans, oxygen to breathe.
Or they,
was a little bit
redoing the Roman Empire, that episode.
Right.
There's so many. It's good. Why isn't there just an
You're a fan
intelligent
too.
shade of blue,
Yeah.
giant crayfish or something? But yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm the same way. You notice it too. When we were speaking before, I mentioned one of my favorite science fiction authors is William Gibson, and the father of cyberpunk and all that. Just a great heist writer, really wrapped in science fiction. But one of the interesting things is he creates this great world, a very Blade Runner type world. Doesn't have cell phones. Totally missed. Everybody having a personal computer on their person. Yes, they can jack into the internet and all this and that, cyberspace and everything. But really, and it's significant. There is somebody in Mozambique on a garbage hill right now texting on a cell phone. And it's crazy. And it's a big thing to miss. It's a big miss. But I'm sure you'd be the first to point out too. You can't see everything coming. Star Trek, though, is interesting in the number of things that it did see coming. Video phones, the communicator. I really wish they'd get on that transporter. Somebody needs to do that. Transport me over a pizza would be fantastic.
Also, I could probably get my husband to travel with me if that existed.
Exactly. The
Right now.
destination's great. I'm sure he would love to travel with you. It's just getting to the destination.
So
I avoid
that's definitely
airports and train stations anytime I can. I get where he's coming from. It's just crazy. Now, let me ask you, do you have the travel bug right now? Are you at that point in your life where it's a cruise, not so bad?
Yeah, no, I would not don't really want to go on a cruise. I was on a cruise with my sister 30 years ago, and that was my last cruise because I started to feel very, it's a little bit like the claustrophobia. I started to feel very
Oh yeah.
trapped in. But I very much have, otherwise, very much have the travel bug. I really, because now I finally can. The kids are grown. Um,
Cruises are an
Husband
acquired
hates to travel,
taste.
so he's probably not invited.
I personally
But
don't like cruises. I feel the same way as you. If I'm going to go out, I don't want to go out in a floating mall with full of floating mall people. I don't want to
yeah,
I don't want to run the risk of being stuck with those people for eternity. No, thank you.
and my recollection is they feed you and feed you and feed you, and it's just like all day and
I can
stuffing
only
food into your
handle
mouth.
steel
Um,
drums so much. Just not my scene. Not my. But there's a lot of
yeah,
people that dig them. That's and good for them. I'm glad they have them for them. Uh,
you know.
Not me.
Well,
I saw
but
Titanic.
I have trouble relaxing. I'd rather go to New York than Hawaii. Well,
I agree. I agree. I'm the same
I
way.
know.
I'm the same. But I live. The thing is, I look out my window. There's swaying palm trees out right outside my window. It's like my in-laws are real. We're going. We need a Caribbean vacation. I'm like, it's 60 miles away. It's not. You live in the Caribbean. What do you mean you need a
Yeah,
vacation to that destination? Wouldn't you
yeah.
want something, some sort of different scenery? But people do what they do. Anyhow, so the
I
talking
don't
stick
know.
is out, as we
Same.
mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I'm trying to circle it back to it, but you're fascinating to talk to. I could talk to you for hours. It is out. People can pick it up where they buy books, right? It's out everywhere.
Right. I've got just one last time. I promise.
Oh no, show it. Show it
Um,
away.
or holding it up. I have a website, and I came up with the name DonnaLevin.com. I don't know how I came up with that, but it is DonnaLevin.com.
Fantastic.
And on the website, yeah, there are links to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, which
Even Target.
donate some of its profits to independent bookstores. Target, that's right, Target. My God, Target, Walmart. You can get it at Walmart, which I feel like
And
when I saw that, I felt like I'd really broke.
I'm telling you, that's pinky out stuff right there. Highfalutin.
Yeah, that's
I just saw on your, I saw this, I guess yesterday or the day before, something like that, on your Facebook page. I think this is so cool. You're in one of those little mini libraries that people build. It looks
yeah.
like a birdhouse type deal, and but it's got books in it, and the public can. It's like a mini library. You're in one. How about that?
I I did not even know about. I've seen them around, but I didn't realize it's really a worldwide movement. These little free libraries. I love it. I was just approached by somebody in Canada actually. Would I donate my books? And I said sure, because I'm more interested in readers than I am in sales. So I'll even mention that if the talking stick is pretty widely available in libraries, especially in ebook form, some hardcovers. So go get it at the library. I don't care. I'm not trying to make 50 cents off a stranger. Just read the book. I would love that. But the little free libraries, I've occasionally seen them around, but I always thought, oh, this is just some community minded neighbor who put it out and it's out for the neighborhood.
Niche type
But
deal. But no, they're everywhere. We have them in our
yeah,
neighborhood. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think
anything
that's
that
cool.
encourages, yeah,
I got to tell you, as an
yeah, very much.
author, it was the big hockey night, so we went over a little early. They were barbecuing over there, and I like to go over a little early because my niece is there. We have my sister and brother-in-law had a baby a couple of years ago, and a little Wiley's her name, and she's just the apple of my eye. She likes Uncle Jamie. Let me tell you, we are tight. Anyhow, so I'm over there, and she had to. This may be TMI for some folks out there, but it's just part of life. She had to use the pod. She had to use the washroom. She's at the point now where she likes to go by herself. She's 2 or something, whatever. I can't remember. But anyway, she went in there and then she comes running out and grabbed a book, one of her books, and says, I almost forgot my potty book. Rushed back into the washroom. And my father-in-law, her grandfather, when she came out, if you watch her hands stuff come out, and he said, no, he goes, I have to ask you, do you like reading when you use the washroom? Or do you just go in there to read sometimes? And she's, I can't tell a
Mm,
lie. I like to read. And I'm like, that kid's going places. And I looked at my sister-in-law and I'm like,
yeah,
that's the key right there. Especially young like
yeah,
that. Have them fall in love with reading. That will pay off. Yeah. And I told my brother-in-law, I
yeah.
said, that's how you get an infinity pool when they get it together and invent the hydrogen car or something, you know?
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So,
Absolutely.
and
While I've got you
and
on,
I
before,
love that these.
oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's important. Well, you've got me on. Yes.
Yes, while I have you on, before we wind things down, I have to ask, are the gears turning for the next project, for the next book, the next novel?
Yes. Thank you for. I'm so glad you asked. Started a new novel, and I'm writing. It's fiction, but I'm writing about what's now called DID, dissociative identity disorder. Used to be called multiple personality disorder, but the DSM-5 in '94 updated it to the more accurate term DID. And it is a fascinating, just fascinating phenomenon where a person with one body has sometimes hundreds altered.
Of
Now,
operating
I
systems,
worry
right?
about
Yeah.
doing justice to what I've learned about this as a phenomenon, and readers don't want to memorize the names of 100 characters. Might as well read Bleak House. But so mine will be a simplified version of that. And I hope I don't get accused of appropriation because I myself do not have DID. But we all have conflicting parts. Even I want to eat this donut. No, you better not eat this donut, says the voice in your head. So
That is
I
fascinating. You know, because you're right. Everybody does have, maybe not to the extreme of full on individual personalities, but yeah, I certainly do. I've got the proverbial devil and angel that appear on my shoulders daily, especially in my creative work. Do I paint this painting? Do I use this canvas for this painting? Or do I paint something else that maybe is a little more sellable or this or that? It's especially when my wife's not in town. She's usually one of the voices that I'll have a brilliant, I'm like, oh, it makes such an artistic statement. It's art. And she's like, sweetie, reel it in. Nobody wants to put that above the piano, art or not. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. She's always right. She's always right, Donna. She's always right.
wife is always right.
I'm
That
telling you.
that is true.
Took me a couple ex-wives to figure that one out, but yes, I learned that lesson. It's very true. The second one in town, and knew her for a couple hours, and it was Las Vegas, and lots of drinking was involved. And plus, we got an annul, so it's official. Anyhow, not good. And I didn't even need a talking stick to get that clarity. Just her general personality. Anyway, it wasn't good. I hope she's doing well. No, I don't care.
Well,
Very cool. I can't wait to read the next one. And any movie producers out there while watching the show or listening to the podcast, I'm sure you could probably write a big check and pick up a fantastic story and have the next big blockbuster on your hands, you know? You could buy a new Cybertruck with it or
and I'll take a
something.
small check too.
You got Oh man. Donna, as always,
Oh,
I wanted to apologize and thank you profusely. This has been such an adventure. It's our first video, and boy, did Jamie have to learn how to use new programs and stuff. But we finally did it. Finally did it. Only 7 takes
yeah.
today. I was starting to feel like Stanley Kubrick or something. I was hoping we would get. We finally figured it out. Jeez. Anyhow, thank you so much for taking time multiple times to do this. And I just wish you all the success in the world. Keep doing what you're doing. You're super good at it.
Thank you so much, Jemmy. I really appreciate all the time you've put into this, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, anytime. Folks, that's going to do it for us. We will see you on the next video and or punt. There we go. I'm going to stop it.
This has been pop art painter Jamie Roxx's Pop Roxx Radio Talk Show. It has been executive produced by Jamie Roxx, recorded at his studio in Deerfield Beach in South Florida. All rights reserved by Pop Roxx Limited.
Hannah Oli, Pop Roxx Radio. Estás escuchando Jamie Roxx de Pop Roxx Radio. Manténganse al tanto.
Hej, det här är Hicks från Sverige och ni lyssnar till Pop Roxx Radio med Jamie Roxx.